The waitress pulled out bubbles and made the screaming girl laugh. What she didn't know, the child's father watching from the corner booth was the most dangerous mafia boss in the city. And he'd just decided she was the only person he'd ever trust with his daughter. The coffee mug shattered against the floor. Clara Matthews didn't flinch. She'd seen worse in her 3 years working at Rosie's diner. What made her look up wasn't the sound. It was the silence that followed. The kind of silence that happens when 40 people stop chewing, stop talking, stop breathing all at once. A little girl stood in the center of the diner, her hands pressed against her ears, her whole body trembling like a leaf in a storm. "Sophia, please." A woman in a designer coat reached for the child, her voice sharp with embarrassment.
"We talked about this."
Indoor voice. "Remember?" The girl's response was a scream that could crack glass. Clara's hand moved to her apron pocket out of instinct, fingers brushing the small plastic bottle she always carried. Not yet. She'd learned the hard way that some situations needed watching before jumping in. The woman, probably a nanny, Clara guessed, grabbed the girl's arm. Wrong move. The child's screams doubled in volume, her small body rocking back and forth with increasing intensity. Tears streamed down her face, but she wasn't looking at anyone. Her eyes were fixed on something invisible, something only she could see. "Ma'am," Clara's coworker Jenny hissed from behind the counter. "Booth 7 is getting annoyed."
"Can you handle it?"
Yeah, Clara untied her apron, never taking her eyes off the little girl. She'd seen this before. The way the fluorescent lights reflected off the chrome napkin dispensers. The clatter of dishes from the kitchen. The competing conversations bouncing off the walls. For most people, it was just a busy Tuesday lunch rush. For a child like this, it was a tsunami of sensation with no escape. Clara approached slowly, staying in the girl's peripheral vision. She knelt 3 feet away, close enough to help, far enough not to crowd. "Hey there," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "My name's Clara. What's yours?" The screaming continued, but the girl's rocking slowed. Just a fraction. "I bet this place is really loud, huh?" Clara continued in that same gentle tone. All those sounds crashing together. Must feel like being inside a drum. The nanny shot Clara a grateful but desperate look. "She has autism. I don't know what set her off this time. We were fine and then—" "It's okay," Clara said, still focused on the child. "Sometimes everything just becomes too much at once. Isn't that right, sweetheart?" Slowly, carefully, Clara pulled the small bottle from her pocket. It was barely 2 inches tall, filled with pink liquid and a tiny wand attached to the cap. A silly thing to carry around at 28 years old. But Clara had learned that the silliest things often save the day. She unscrewed the cap and dipped the wand. Then she blew. A stream of iridescent bubbles floated through the air, catching the afternoon light streaming through the windows. They drifted lazily, each one a tiny floating rainbow. The screaming stopped. The little girl's hands slowly lowered from her ears. Her dark eyes, still wet with tears, tracked a single bubble as it bobbed past her nose. She hiccuped once, twice, and then her hand shot out, popping the bubble with her finger. A sound escaped her lips. Not a scream this time. A laugh. Small and surprised, like she'd forgotten what laughing felt like. Clara blew more bubbles. The girl popped another, then another, her whole face transforming. The tension melted from her small shoulders. Her body stilled. She was still crying, but differently now, the kind of crying that comes after a storm passes, when you're too exhausted to do anything but let it out. "You like bubbles?" Clara asked softly. The girl nodded, her eyes never leaving the floating spheres. "Me too. Want to know a secret?" Clara leaned in conspiratorially. "I think bubbles are magic. They take all the bad feelings and float them away."
"See?
There goes one now. And another." The child reached for the wand. Clara handed it over without hesitation. Trust earned, trust given. "Sophia," the girl whispered, so quietly Clara almost missed it. That's a beautiful name, Sophia. The diner had come back to life around them. Forks scraped plates. Conversations resumed. But in their little bubble, Clara smiled at her own pun. There was peace. The nanny exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for an hour. I don't know how you did that. I've been with her for 6 months and I've never. It's all right, Clara said, standing up and brushing off her knees. She kept one eye on Sophia, who was now blowing bubbles with intense concentration, watching each one float toward the ceiling. Every kid's different. Sometimes you just have to find their thing. Thank you, the nanny breathed. Her father will be so. Her father can thank the waitress personally. The voice came from behind Clara.
Deep.
Quiet. The kind of quiet that made everyone within earshot go still again. Clara turned. The man standing 3 feet away hadn't been there a moment ago. At least, she hadn't noticed him.
But she noticed now.
He was tall, maybe 6'2", wearing a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Clara made in 3 months. Dark hair, graying at the temples.
Sharp jaw.
Eyes the color of smoke, gray and unreadable, studying her with the intensity of someone who made his living reading people. But it wasn't his appearance that made Clara's pulse quicken. It was the 3 men standing behind him, hands clasped in front of them like Secret Service agents. It was the way every single person in the diner had suddenly found their food fascinating. It was the cellular-level certainty that she was standing in front of someone dangerous. I'm Adrian Romano, he said, extending his hand. Sophia's father. Clara's training kicked in automatically. She'd practiced this moment 100 times in simulations, in briefings, in front of bathroom mirrors. Natural smile. Firm handshake. Maintain eye contact but don't challenge. Clara Matthews, she took his hand. His grip was warm, controlled. I'm just glad I could help. Just glad, he repeated her words like he was testing them for truth. His eyes flicked to Sophia, who was still blowing bubbles, oblivious to everything else. When he looked back at Clara, something had shifted in his expression. My daughter hasn't smiled like that in weeks. How did you know what to do? There it was. The first test. Clara had expected it, but her pulse still jumped. I used to work at a daycare, she said, the lie sliding off her tongue like silk. She'd practiced it enough. You learn to improvise. Kids are kids, whether they're autistic or neurotypical. They just need someone to meet them where they are. Adrian Romano studied her for a long moment. Clara forced herself not to fidget, not to break eye contact, not to do any of the 1,000 small things guilty people do. Finally, he nodded. The nanny was supposed to quit today. She's overwhelmed. His eyes never left Clara's face. How would you feel about a temporary position? Just until I can find someone more permanent. Clara's heart slammed against her ribs. This was it. The opening she'd spent 3 months engineering. The diner job, the bubble solution in her pocket, the research into his daughter's needs, all of it had been leading to this moment. But she couldn't seem eager. That would raise suspicion. I don't know, she said slowly. I've got this job and I'll pay you $5,000 a week. Behind the counter, Jenny dropped a plate. Clara's mind raced. Her studio apartment cost $1,200 a month. Her actual salary as an undercover detective was $62,000 a year. $5,000 a week was insane money for a waitress. It was exactly the kind of money that would make refusing suspicious. She looked at Sophia, still absorbed in her bubbles, and felt something unexpected twist in her chest. This was supposed to be a job, an assignment. Adrian Romano ran one of the most powerful crime families in Chicago. He moved drugs, weapons, and money through channels the FBI had been trying to trace for 5 years. He was a target, nothing more. But the little girl laughing at Bubbles? She was just a kid who needed help. Can I think about it? Clara asked. Adrian Romano smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. Of course, he said. You have until tomorrow. He pulled a business card from his pocket and pressed it into her palm. Their fingers touched for a second. She felt calluses, unexpected on hands that wealthy. Then he walked to Sophia, knelt down beside her, and whispered something that made her giggle. He stood, nodded to his men, and they filed out of the diner like shadows. Clara stared at the card in her hand. Tomorrow, her real mission would begin. She just hoped she was ready. Clara sat in her car outside the diner for 20 minutes after her shift ended, staring at Adrian Romano's business card. The right move was obvious. Call her handler, report the contact, accept the job offer. This was exactly what 3 months of surveillance and planning had been designed to achieve, a way inside Romano's inner circle. So, why were her hands shaking? She pulled out her phone and dialed a number that wasn't saved in her contacts. It rang twice. Matthews, Detective Sergeant Marcus Reed's voice was clipped, efficient. "Tell me you have good news. He offered me the job." Silence on the other end. Then, the daughter? Had a meltdown in the diner. I calmed her down. He was watching. Clara closed her eyes, seeing Sophia's face transform from anguish to wonder as the bubbles floated past. Reed. She's just a little girl. She's got nothing to do with her father's organization that's responsible for 17 homicides in the past 2 years? The one flooding the South Side with fentanyl. Reed's voice hardened. Remember why you're doing this, Clara. Remember what Romano's product did to your sister. Clara's jaw clenched. She didn't need the reminder. 15 months ago, her sister Emma had overdosed on heroin cut with fentanyl. The supply chain had led straight back to Romano's operation. Emma was 23. She'd been clean for 6 months before the relapse that killed her. I remember, Clara said quietly. Then you know this is bigger than one kid. We get Romano, we save hundreds of lives. Thousands. Reed's tone softened slightly. I know it's hard, but you're a good cop, Matthews. The best undercover we've got. That's why you're on this. What if he runs a background check? We've had Clara Matthews established for 4 months. Social security number, credit history, rental records, former employers. All of it checks out. You worked at Little Sprouts Daycare in Milwaukee for 2 years before moving to Chicago last spring. You're clean. He doesn't feel like someone who trusts easily. That's why you're going to be exactly what he needs, someone who can handle his daughter when nobody else can. You've done the research. You know her triggers, her patterns. Use it. Reed paused. When do you start? Clara looked at the card again. Gold embossed letters. An address in Lincoln Park, one of the wealthiest neighborhoods in Chicago. He wants an answer by tomorrow. Then call him tonight. The longer you wait, the more suspicious it looks. Clara ended the call and sat in the silence of her car. Through the diner window, she could see Jenny wiping down tables, the same routine they'd done together for 3 months. Jenny thought Clara was saving up for nursing school. She thought Clara's name was really Clara Matthews, that she'd really worked in daycares, that her life story wasn't an elaborate FBI construction. Everyone Clara had met in the past 4 months believed a lie. Tomorrow, she'd add Adrian Romano and his daughter to that list. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. The offer stands until 9 a.m. After that, I find someone else. AR. Clara stared at the message. Even his text felt like a test. Decide now. Show your hand. Prove you're who you say you are. She typed back. I'll take the job. When do I start? The response came within seconds. Car will pick you up tomorrow at 8 a.m. Bring a week's worth of clothes. You'll live in. Live in. Clara's stomach dropped. She'd expected visits, maybe some overnight stays. But living in Romano's house meant no privacy, no backup close by, no easy extraction if things went wrong. It also meant complete access. Another text. Address? Clara sent her apartment address, the FBI lease studio in Wicker Park that matched her cover story. Not too nice, not too shabby. Exactly what a former daycare worker turned waitress could afford. See you tomorrow, Clara. She dropped the phone in her lap and pressed her palms against her eyes. This was what she wanted. What she'd worked for. Emma's face flashed in her mind. Not the way she'd looked in the morgue, but before. Laughing. Alive. Making stupid jokes and stealing Clara's fries and talking about going back to school. Emma had been someone's daughter too. Someone's sister. She'd mattered. And Adrian Romano's organization had killed her as surely as if they'd put a gun to her head. But Sophia's face intruded on the memory. Those dark eyes, wide with fear, and then wonder. The way she'd reached for the bubble wand with such trust. The sound of her laugh. "She's not your problem," Clara whispered to herself. "She's just part of the job." The words felt hollow. She started the car and drove to her apartment, mentally cataloging what she'd need to pack. Clothes that fit her cover, nothing too expensive, nothing too cheap. The cross necklace she always wore because Clara Matthews was supposedly raised Catholic. The small photo of her family that was actually stock photography. And the bubbles. She'd need more bubbles. Inside her apartment, Clara opened the safe hidden behind her bathroom mirror. Inside was her real badge, her real ID, her service weapon. Detective Clara Reyes, Chicago PD, Special Investigations Unit. 28 years old. 5 years on the force. 2 undercover operations before this one. This was the biggest yet. She touched the badge once, a reminder of who she really was, then locked the safe again. Tomorrow, Detective Clara Reyes would disappear completely. Tomorrow, Clara Matthews would walk into a crime lord's home and smile like she belonged there. Tomorrow, the real mission would begin. She packed her bag, set her alarm for 6 a.m., and lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Sleep wouldn't come. It never did the night before deep cover began. Instead, she ran through her training, maintain the character, never break cover, trust no one, remember the objective. Get evidence. Bring down Romano. Get justice for Emma. The plan was simple. So, why did it already feel complicated? At 7:45 a.m., Clara stood on the sidewalk with a single duffel bag, watching a black Mercedes pull up to the curb. The driver stepped out, one of the men who'd been with Romano at the diner. He didn't smile. "Miss Matthews?" His voice was pure Southside Chicago. "I'm Tony. Mr. Romano sent me." Clara gripped her bag tighter and nodded. Tony opened the back door. Clara took a breath and stepped inside. The door closed with a solid, final thunk. There was no turning back now. The Mercedes didn't go to Lincoln Park. Clara noticed after 10 minutes. Tony had taken the Kennedy Expressway north, then exited near O'Hare Airport. They pulled into a long-term parking garage, level 3, section D. "Change of plans," Tony said, his eyes meeting hers in the rear-view mirror. "Mr. Romano had a morning meeting. We pick you up in 2 hours." Clara's pulse quickened. 2 hours? Where am I supposed to? There's a Starbucks on the ground level. Get some coffee. Relax. He pulled an envelope from his jacket and handed it back. First week's salary. Mr. Romano believes in paying up front. Clara opened the envelope. 50 crisp $100 bills. Tony was already out of the car, opening her door. 2 hours, Miss Matthews. Don't be late. Then he was gone, the Mercedes purring out of the garage. Clara stood alone in the concrete structure, holding $5,000 and her duffel bag. For a moment, she just breathed. Then she pulled out her phone and sent a single text to a different number. Package delayed. 2 hours. The response was immediate. Blue Honda. Level 2.
Now.
Clara found the stairwell and climbed down 1 level. The blue Honda Civic was parked in a corner spot, windows tinted dark. She opened the back door and slid inside. Detective Sergeant Marcus Reed sat in the driver's seat. In the passenger seat was Special Agent Victoria Chun from the FBI. Both turned to look at her. $5,000 in cash before you even start? Reed whistled low. Romano's either desperate or testing you. Both, probably, Agent Chun said. She was petite, sharp-eyed, and hadn't smiled once in the 6 months Clara had known her. Did you notice the tail? Clara's stomach dropped. What tail? Black Nissan, 3 cars back the whole way from your apartment. One of Romano's guys, Chin pulled out a tablet showing grainy footage of the Mercedes route. He wanted to see if you'd make contact with anyone. You passed. Jesus, Clara breathed. He's already suspicious. He's careful. There's a difference, Reed twisted in his seat to face her fully. Listen, Clara. You're about to enter a fortress. Romano's house has cameras everywhere except the bedrooms and bathrooms. Armed guards rotate every 6 hours. His inner circle, his consigliere, his captains, they're all paranoid by training. One wrong move and… I know the risks, Clara cut him off. What's the play? Agent Chen opened a small black case. Inside was what looked like a normal tube of lipstick. This is a USB drive disguised as makeup. If you can access Romano's computer, even for 30 seconds, plug this in. It'll clone his hard drive wirelessly to our servers. Clara took the lipstick, turning it over in her hands. What if he catches me? Then you're a woman who borrowed his office to fix her makeup. Act embarrassed, apologize, leave. Chen's expression didn't change. But don't get caught. Reed leaned forward. We also need you to identify his key players. We know the names: Victor Castellano, his consigliere; Marco De Luca, his enforcer; Tommy Ricci, his accountant. But we need to know the hierarchy, the relationships, where the money flows. And the drugs, Agent Chen added coldly. We know he's moving fentanyl through the port of Chicago. We need to know the distribution network. Names, locations, schedules. Clara nodded slowly, feeling the weight of it all. How long do I have? However long it takes, Reed said. But the brass is getting impatient. They want results within 3 months or they're pulling you out. 3 months living in a crime lord's house. 3 months lying to a little girl who'd just started to trust someone. What about Sophia? The question slipped out before Clara could stop it. Reed and Chen exchanged a glance. What about her? Chen's voice was carefully neutral. She's 7 years old. Autistic. She has nothing to do with her father's business. She's leverage, Chen said flatly. Romano's only weakness. Every player in Chicago knows if they want to hurt him, they hurt her. That's why he's so desperate to find someone he can trust to keep her safe. She paused. That's also why this cover is perfect. He'll bring you close because of her. Use that. Clara's fingers tightened around the fake lipstick. She's a child. She's a mobster's daughter, Reed said, but his voice was gentler. Look, nobody's asking you to hurt the kid. We're asking you to do your job. Get evidence on Romano. Bring him down. The girl will end up in protective custody, probably with relatives. She'll be fine. And if she's not fine? If taking down her father destroys her? The car went silent. Finally, Agent Chen spoke. Your sister was 23 years old. She had her whole life ahead of her. Romano's product killed her and hundreds like her. You want to tell me that one little girl who'll be placed with family and get the best care money can buy matters more than all those lives? Clara closed her eyes. Emma's face again, cold and still on a metal table. The medical examiner had been kind, professional, but nothing could soften the reality of what Clara had seen. No, she whispered. She doesn't matter more. But the words felt like swallowing glass. Reed handed her a small flip phone. Emergency contact only. It's disguised as a burner. If Romano finds it, you're just a girl with a backup phone. But we'll be listening 24/7. You need extraction, you call. Clara pocketed the phone along with the lipstick. Anything else? She asked. Yeah, Reed's expression was serious. Don't let him get in your head. Romano's charming when he wants to be. He'll seem reasonable, even kind. He'll justify everything he does.
Don't buy it.
He's a killer who hides behind expensive suits and a sick kid. Clara nodded, but Sophia's laugh echoed in her memory. The pure joy on her face when the bubbles floated past. The way she'd whispered her own name like it was a secret gift. I should go, Clara said. The 2 hours are almost up. She climbed out of the Honda, duffel bag in hand. Before she closed the door, Chen called out, Detective Reyes? Clara paused. It had been months since anyone had called her by her real name. Don't forget who you are, Chen said. And why you're doing this. Clara nodded once and shut the door. She walked back up to level 3 and found a concrete pillar to lean against. She had 40 minutes before Tony returned. 40 minutes to be Clara Reyes, to remember her badge and her oath and her sister's face. Then she'd become Clara Matthews again. And she'd walk into Adrian Romano's home with a smile. At exactly 2 hours, the black Mercedes pulled up. Tony stepped out, his face unreadable. "Ready, Miss Matthews?" Clara picked up her bag and smiled. "Ready." The Romano mansion wasn't what Clara expected. She'd imagined something garish, marble columns, gold fixtures, the kind of wealth that screamed for attention. Instead, the 3-story brick estate in Lincoln Park was understated elegance. Ivy climbed the east wall. A Japanese maple tree shaded the circular driveway. If not for the security cameras hidden in the eaves and the 2 men in suits flanking the front door, it could have been any wealthy family's home. Tony didn't walk her to the entrance. He simply nodded toward the door and drove the Mercedes around back. Clara climbed the stone steps alone. Before she could knock, the door opened. The woman standing there was 60-something, gray hair pulled into a tight bun, wearing a black dress that suggested staff rather than family. Her eyes were cold as January. "You're the new girl, not a question. An accusation." "Clara Matthews. I'm here too." "I know why you're here." The woman stepped aside, but barely. Clara had to turn sideways to enter. "I'm Mrs. Castellano. I manage the household. You'll report to me and Mr. Romano. Nobody else." The foyer was all dark wood and soft lighting. A curved staircase led to the second floor. Oil paintings lined the walls, landscapes mostly, nothing personal. Classical music drifted from somewhere deeper in the house. "Rules," Mrs. Castellano said, closing the door with a solid thunk. "No questions about Mr. Romano's business. No wandering the house without permission. No phone calls from the landline. Your room is 3rd floor, east wing. Sophia's room is 2nd floor, west wing. You do not enter Mr. Romano's private office or bedroom under any circumstances." "Understood." "Understood. The men you'll see around the property are security. They won't bother you if you don't bother them. But they're always watching." Mrs. Castellano's eyes narrowed. "Always." Clara nodded, cataloging every detail. Security team size. Camera placement. The layout already forming a map in her mind. "Where's Sophia?" Clara asked. "In the playroom with her previous nanny. Miss Hernandez is briefing her replacement." The way Mrs. Castellano said replacement made it clear what she thought of Clara's chances of lasting. "May I see her?" "Mr. Romano wants to speak with you first." "This way." They walked through a living room that looked like it had never been lived in, down a hallway lined with closed doors, and stopped at the last one. Mrs. Castellano knocked twice. "Come in," Adrian Romano's voice, muffled by the door. The office was surprisingly modest. A desk, 2 chairs, built-in bookshelves filled with leather-bound volumes. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked a garden where roses were just beginning to bloom. Adrian sat behind the desk, reading something on his laptop. He didn't look up immediately. Mrs. Castellano left without a word, closing the door behind her. Clara stood in silence, waiting. This was another test. She could feel it. Finally, Adrian closed the laptop and stood. Today he wore dark slacks and a white shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows. Without the suit jacket, he looked younger, more human, more dangerous. "Miss Matthews, welcome to my home." He gestured to a chair. "Please sit." Clara sat, keeping her posture relaxed but not too casual. Confident but not cocky. Adrian remained standing, studying her from across the desk. "I had you investigated last night. Former daycare worker, moved to Chicago 8 months ago, clean record. Currently working at Rosie's Diner to make ends meet. Single, no family in the area." He paused. "You're exactly who you say you are." Clara's heart hammered but her face stayed calm. "Did you expect something different?" "I always expect different." He moved to the window, hands in his pockets. "My daughter is the most important thing in my world, Miss Matthews. The only thing that matters. I don't trust easily. I don't trust often. But Sophia smiled at you. That counts for something." She's a sweet kid. She's a complicated kid. Adrian turned to face her. Her mother died when Sophia was 3. Car accident. Since then, she's been
difficult to reach.
She doesn't like to be touched. She doesn't speak much. Most people frighten her. Clara heard the pain beneath his words. Whatever else Adrian Romano was, he was a father struggling with a child he couldn't help. But yesterday, he continued, you gave her bubbles and she laughed. You didn't push, didn't force, didn't try to fix her. You just met her where she was. That's all she needed. Can you do it again? Every day? When she has meltdowns at 3 a.m. When she won't eat for 2 days. When she screams because the seam on her sock isn't straight? Adrian's voice hardened. This isn't playing with bubbles in a diner, Miss Matthews. This is real. This is hard. Are you ready for hard? Clara met his eyes. I'm ready. A knock at the door interrupted them. Mrs. Castellano entered, her expression tight. Sir, Miss Hernandez is leaving now. Sophia is asking for the bubble lady. Something flickered in Adrian's face. Surprise, maybe. Or hope. Take Miss Matthews to the playroom, he said. Clara followed Mrs. Castellano up the curved staircase to the second floor. She counted doors, noted windows, memorized the floor plan. 4 men in suits were stationed at various points, one at the top of the stairs, one in the hallway, 2 outside what must be Adrian's private quarters. They all watched her pass with identical suspicious stares. The playroom door was painted sky blue with white clouds. Mrs. Castellano opened it without knocking. Sophia, you're new. She didn't get to finish. Sophia stood in the center of the room surrounded by scattered toys. When she saw Clara, her whole face lit up. She ran, actually ran, and threw her small arms around Clara's legs with such force it nearly knocked her over. Bubbles. Sophia squealed. You came back. Clara's breath caught. She knelt down, letting Sophia's weight settle against her. The little girl was wearing a yellow dress and mismatched socks. Her dark hair was pulled into pigtails that were already coming loose. Hi, Sophia, Clara said softly. I told you I'd see you again. Miss Hernandez said you weren't real. That I dreamed you, Sophia pulled back, her dark eyes searching Clara's face. But you're real. Very real. And I'm going to stay here with you for a while. Would you like that? Sophia nodded, so hard her pigtails bounced. Then she grabbed Clara's hand, that simple gesture of trust, and pulled her toward a corner where dozens of stuffed animals sat in a precise circle. Tea party, Sophia announced. You have to come to the tea party. Mr. Bear is waiting. Behind them, Mrs. Castellano made a small sound. Clara glanced back and saw genuine shock on the older woman's face. She doesn't. She never, Mrs. Castellano stammered. She doesn't let anyone touch her. But Sophia was already arranging Clara into a sitting position, pressing a toy teacup into her hands, chattering about how Mr. Bear liked his tea with 3 sugars, but Mrs. Elephant was allergic to sugar, so she got pretend honey instead. Clara looked up to see Adrian standing in the doorway. He wasn't looking at Sophia. He was looking at Clara, his expression unreadable. But his hands gripped the doorframe so tightly his knuckles had gone white. In that moment, Clara understood. Sophia wasn't just his weakness. She was his entire world. And Clara had just become the one person who could reach her. The thought should have felt like victory, like the perfect cover, the perfect in. Instead, it felt like responsibility, and something uncomfortably close to guilt. 3 days into her new job, Clara learned the rhythm of Adrian Romano's house. Mornings were quiet. Adrian left at 7 a.m. sharp, always in a dark suit, always with at least 2 men flanking him. He'd stop at Sophia's door first, crack it open, watch his daughter sleep for exactly 30 seconds, then leave without a word. Afternoons belonged to Sophia. Clara would spend hours in the playroom, the garden, or Sophia's room, wherever the little girl felt comfortable. They'd blow bubbles, arrange stuffed animals, read the same 3 books over and over because Sophia loved the repetition. Evenings were when the house came alive.
Cars would arrive.
Men in expensive suits would file into Adrian's office. Sometimes Clara heard raised voices. Once, she heard something shatter. But mostly, she heard nothing, just the low murmur of conversations behind closed doors. And Clara watched. Always watched. On her fourth night, she was reading to Sophia when she heard footsteps in the hallway. Through the cracked bedroom door, she saw 3 men pass. Adrian, a silver-haired man in his 60s, and a younger guy built like a linebacker. "The shipment's ready," the silver-haired man said. "Port Authority inspection is scheduled for Thursday, but our guy will be working that day. Should be clean." "How much?" Adrian's voice was all business. 40 kilos. Street value around 2 million each. Clara's hand froze on the page. 40 kilos of what? Cocaine? Heroin? The fentanyl that killed Emma? "And once upon a time," Sophia whispered, poking Clara's arm. "You stopped reading." Clara forced a smile. "Sorry, sweetheart. Where were we?" But her mind was racing.
Port Authority.
Thursday. A corrupted inspector. This was exactly the kind of intelligence Reed and Chin needed. After Sophia fell asleep, Clara slipped the emergency phone from her pocket and texted, "Shipment Thursday. Port of Chicago.
40 kilos.
Corrupt inspector." The response came within minutes. Description of the men. Clara texted back. Silver hair, 60s. Younger guy, 6 feet 4 inches, 250 pounds. Victor Castellano and Marco DeLuca. Good work.
Keep going.
Clara deleted the texts and hid the phone in her pillowcase. Mission progressing. Evidence gathering. Everything going according to plan. So, why did her chest feel tight? The next morning, Clara woke to screaming. She bolted from her third-floor room and ran down 2 flights of stairs. Sophia's door was open. Inside, the little girl was on the floor, rocking violently, her hands pressed over her ears. Breakfast was smashed across the carpet. Eggs, toast, orange juice soaking into the white rug. Mrs. Castellano stood helplessly in the corner. "She won't let me near her. I tried to feed her and she just—" "It's okay," Clara said, kneeling 5 feet from Sophia. "I've got her." But Sophia wasn't calming. Her screams pitched higher. Clara noticed the texture of the eggs, scrambled, wet, touching the toast. For a child with sensory issues, it probably looked like a nightmare. "Sophia," Clara said gently, "can you tell me what's wrong?" "Touching." Sophia shrieked. "They're touching. Make them stop touching." Clara understood immediately. She turned to Mrs. Castellano. "She needs her food separated. Nothing can touch. And the eggs need to be dry. Overcook them. Mr. Romano insists she eats healthy." "Mr. Romano isn't here," Clara's voice was firm. "Get her plain toast, dry eggs, and juice in a cup with a straw. Everything on separate plates." Mrs. Castellano looked offended but left. Clara started humming, a soft, repetitive tune. She'd learned that Sophia responded to patterns, to predictability. Slowly, the screaming faded to whimpers. "They were touching," Sophia whispered, tears streaming down her face. "I hate when they touch." "I know. We'll fix it. I promise." By the time Mrs. Castellano returned with properly separated food, Sophia had calmed enough to eat. She took small, careful bites, her whole body still trembling. Clara heard footsteps and looked up. Adrian stood in the doorway in a t-shirt and sweatpants, the first time she'd seen him in anything but a suit. His hair was messy. He looked like he'd just woken up. And his eyes were devastated. "I heard her screaming from 3 floors away," he said quietly. "I thought," he stopped, jaw clenching. "I thought someone had hurt her." "It was the eggs," Clara explained. "They were touching the toast. She needs everything separated." Adrian stared at his daughter, who was now eating peacefully, like the meltdown had never happened. "I didn't know that. Most people wouldn't. I'm her father. I should know." The pain in his voice was raw. "I've had 6 nannies in 2 years. None of them lasted more than 3 months. None of them could." He gestured helplessly at Sophia. Do what you do. Clara wanted to feel triumph. This was vulnerability, proof that Adrian needed her, that her cover was solid. Instead, she felt something uncomfortably like sympathy. It's not about knowing everything, Clara said. It's about paying attention. Sophia tells you what she needs. You just have to listen differently. Adrian was quiet for a long moment. Then he walked into the room and sat on the floor across from his daughter. Not close enough to crowd her. Just present. Sophia, he said softly. I'm sorry about breakfast. Sophia looked at him, a piece of toast halfway to her mouth. You didn't make breakfast. Mrs. Castellano did. But I told her how to make it.
And I was wrong, he paused.
Will you forgive me? Sophia considered this with the seriousness of a judge. Then she nodded. Okay. But tell her no more touching food. No more touching food, Adrian promised. I'll tell everyone. Sophia went back to eating. Adrian stayed on the floor, just watching her. The early morning light caught his profile, the tired lines around his eyes, the gray in his hair. He looked like a man carrying the weight of the world. Clara's phone buzzed in her pocket. Probably Reed, wanting an update, wanting more evidence, wanting her to remember why she was here. But all she could see was a father who didn't know how to help his own daughter. A man who moved drugs that killed people. A man who just apologized to a 7-year-old about scrambled eggs. How could someone be both? Thank you, Adrian said, not looking at Clara, for understanding her when I can't. You understand her, Clara said. You just show it differently. He finally met her eyes. Do I? In that moment, Clara saw past the crime lord, past the dangerous reputation, past the man who ordered shipments of poison into the city. She saw someone who was afraid. Afraid of failing the one person who mattered most. And for the first time since taking this assignment, Clara felt the careful walls around her mission begin to crack. Yeah, she said quietly. You do. Adrian held her gaze for one more second. Then he stood, kissed the top of Sophia's head. She tolerated it without flinching, and left the room. Clara pulled out her phone and deleted Reed's unread message, without looking at it. She'd report later. Right now, she had a little girl to take care of. And a growing suspicion that this job was going to destroy her in ways she hadn't anticipated. Clara was in the garden with Sophia, watching the little girl carefully arrange pebbles by size, when she heard the voices. The library windows were open. Adrian's office was on the other side of the house, but the library connected to it through an interior door. And voices carried. You're making a mistake, Adrian. Clara recognized the voice. Victor Castellano, the silver-haired man she'd seen in the hallway. Mrs. Castellano's husband, she'd learned. Adrian's consigliera, his most trusted advisor. Careful, Victor. Adrian's voice was dangerously quiet. That sounded like a challenge. It's a concern. A legitimate one. Another voice. Marco De Luca, the enforcer. We don't know this girl. She shows up out of nowhere, wins over your kid in 5 minutes, and now she's living in your house? It stinks. Clara's hands stilled on the pebbles. Sophia looked up at her, sensing the tension. Keep sorting, Clara whispered. You're doing great. But she moved closer to the windows, straining to hear. I had her investigated, Adrian said. She's clean. Investigations can be faked. A third voice. Older, rougher. Tommy Ricci, the accountant. I've faked enough background checks to know. You want me to dig deeper? Real deep. No, Adrian's response was immediate. Leave her alone. Why? Victor pressed. Give me one good reason why we should trust a stranger in your home during the most sensitive operation we've run in 5 years. Silence. Clara's heart hammered. What operation? The port shipment? Something bigger. She helped Sophia, Adrian finally said. That's reason enough. Bullshit, Marco's voice rose. You've gone soft, boss. That kid's got you twisted up. First you won't let us do the casino job because it's too risky with her in the house. Then you pull back on the Brooklyn deal because you want to be home for her bedtime. And now you're bringing in some random waitress because she blows bubbles? Watch your mouth, Marco. Adrian's voice could have cut steel. That's my daughter you're talking about. And this is our organization, Victor said, calmer but no less firm. The family we've built over 30 years. You think the Salvatores won't notice you've got a weakness living under your roof? You think Constantine and his Russians won't see an opening? One hit on this girl, and you're compromised. Then make sure there's no hit. Or get rid of her before she becomes a problem, Tommy again. There's plenty of other nannies. Ones we can vet properly. Ones we can control. No. Adrian. I said no. A chair scraped. Clara imagined Adrian standing, using his height to dominate the room. Sophia has been unhappy for 4 years. 4 years of therapists and specialists and nannies who lasted weeks before quitting. 4 years of watching my daughter scream herself hoarse and not being able to help her. And then this girl walks into a diner and makes Sophia laugh. Actually laugh. So you want to tell me she's dangerous? Fine. Maybe she is. Then why keep her? Victor demanded. Dangerous to me? Adrian's voice dropped. Or dangerous to the child who finally smiles. The words hung in the air. Clara felt something twist in her chest. He was defending her. A man who'd built an empire on violence and crime was defending her because she'd made his daughter happy. And she was lying to him every single day. I understand your concern, Adrian continued, his tone more measured now. I do. But Sophia needs stability. She needs someone who understands her. Clara is that person. Until I have reason to believe otherwise, she stays. Just like that. Marco sounded incredulous. You're willing to risk everything on a gut feeling? I'm willing to risk everything for my daughter. That's not new information, gentlemen. What if she's a plant? Tommy asked. What if someone sent her? The feds have been sniffing around since the Rodriguez bust. What if this is how they get inside? Clara's blood went cold. Then she would have made a move by now, Adrian said. But there was something in his voice, doubt, maybe, suspicion. She's had access to the house for a week. Nothing's missing. No questions asked. She does her job and goes to bed. You sure about that? Victor asked. You watch her every second. The cameras do. Clara's stomach dropped. Of course there were cameras. She'd known that. But hearing Adrian confirm he was watching her, looking for mistakes. Cameras don't catch everything, Marco muttered. Then what do you suggest? Adrian's patience was wearing thin. You want to bug her room? Follow her to the bathroom? Treat her like a criminal for the crime of being good with children. I want you to be careful, Victor said quietly. You're not just a father, Adrian. You're the head of this family. Your decisions affect all of us. If this girl brings heat, we all burn. Noted. Is it? Victor pressed. Because from where I'm sitting, you're already attached. I see how you look at her. Not just as Sophia's caretaker. As. Enough. Adrian's voice cracked like a whip. We're done here. The Thursday shipment proceeds as planned. Marco, you handle port security. Tommy, the payment's ready. Offshore account, untraceable. Good. Victor, anything else? Any actual business to discuss? A pause. Then, just be careful, Adrian. That's all I'm asking. This girl shows up at the exact right moment, says all the right things, fits perfectly into the space Sophia needs filled. Doesn't that seem convenient? Life is rarely convenient, Adrian said. Sometimes we just get lucky. And sometimes, Victor replied, we get played. Footsteps approached the door. Clara grabbed Sophia's hand. Come on, sweetie. Let's go inside and get a snack. But I'm not done sorting. We'll finish later. I promise. Clara hurried Sophia through the garden door and into the kitchen, her mind racing. They knew something was off. They were watching her, suspicious, waiting for her to slip. And Adrian? He was defending her. But Victor was right, he was also watching, searching for proof that his instincts were wrong. The kitchen door swung open. Clara's heart jumped. But it was just Mrs. Castellano, her expression even colder than usual. Mr. Romano wants to see you, she said. In his office.
Now.
Sophia tugged Clara's hand. Don't go. Stay and play. I'll be right back, sweetheart. I promise. Clara followed Mrs. Castellano through the halls, every step feeling like walking to an execution. Had they decided? Was she about to be thrown out? Or worse? Mrs. Castellano knocked once and opened the door. Adrian sat at his desk alone now. His eyes met Clara's, and she saw it. The suspicion Victor had planted. The doubt. He was looking at her the way a predator studies prey, trying to decide if she was a threat. Close the door, Adrian said quietly. Mrs. Castellano left. The door clicked shut. Clara was alone with a man who could make her disappear with one phone call. And he knew she was hiding something. The question was, did he know what? Adrian gestured to the chair across from his desk. Sit. Clara sat, keeping her expression neutral despite her racing heart. Adrian didn't speak immediately. He opened a drawer, pulled out a folder, and placed it on the desk between them. Clara's own face stared up at her from a photograph, leaving her apartment, walking into Rosie's diner, getting into Tony's car. I've been watching you, Adrian said.
Every day since you arrived.
Looking for inconsistencies. Mistakes. Something that doesn't add up. Clara forced herself to breathe normally. And you're exactly who you say you are. You care about Sophia. You don't ask questions. You don't snoop, he paused, studying her face. But my counsel thinks you're too perfect.
Too convenient.
They think someone sent you. Did they? That's what I'm asking you. Clara met his eyes. This was the moment. One wrong word, one flicker of guilt, and everything would unravel. Mr. Romano, I'm a waitress who needed better pay. Your daughter needed help. That's all this is, she kept her voice steady. If your men want to investigate me more, that's fine. But while they're doing that, Sophia still needs someone. And right now, I'm the only one she trusts. Adrian's jaw tightened. You're using my daughter. I'm helping your daughter. There's a difference. They stared at each other across the desk. Clara could feel the danger radiating off him, the barely contained violence of a man who'd built an empire on knowing when people were lying. Finally, Adrian closed the folder. Victor wants me to fire you. Marco wants me to have you followed everywhere. Tommy wants a full deep dive investigation, the kind that takes weeks and costs a fortune. What do you want? I want to trust you, the admission seemed to cost him. But trust is expensive in my world. People who trust end up dead. Then don't trust me, Clara said. Just let me do my job. Watch me all you want. Bug my room, follow me, investigate every day of my life. But let Sophia have someone who understands her. Adrian was quiet for a long moment. Then he stood and walked to the window, his back to her. My wife used to say I saw threats everywhere. That I needed to let people in. His voice was soft, almost reflective. She was wrong. The moment I let my guard down, she died. Clara's breath caught. What happened? Car bomb. Meant for me. She was borrowing my car because hers was in the shop. He turned, his face a mask of controlled pain. So you'll forgive me if I don't just let you in, Miss Matthews. Everyone close to me ends up paying the price. For a moment, Clara forgot she was undercover, forgot about Reed and Chun and the mission. All she saw was a man haunted by loss, trying desperately to protect the one person he had left. I'm sorry, she said quietly. And she meant it. Adrian's expression hardened. Don't be sorry. Just prove me right. Prove that you're exactly who you say you are.
How? Stay.
Do your job. Don't give me a reason to doubt you. He moved back to his desk. That's all. Clara stood. And if your counsel disagrees? My counsel doesn't run this family. I do, his eyes locked on hers. But if you betray me, Miss Matthews? If you're working for someone else? They won't find your body. It wasn't a threat. It was a promise. Clara nodded and left the office, her legs somehow still working despite feeling like water. That night, Clara waited until Sophia was asleep before climbing to her third-floor room. She pulled out the emergency phone and sent a single text. Need to talk.
Urgent.
20 minutes later, her phone buzzed. Navy Pier. South Side. 1 hour. Clara slipped out through the kitchen door. The security cameras caught her leaving, but she'd learned their patterns. There was a 15-second gap when the South Gate camera rotated away. Just enough time. She caught a bus downtown and found Reed waiting on a bench near the Ferris wheel, pretending to watch the water. "You're compromised," he said without preamble when she sat down. "Romano's suspicious. He questioned me today. I handled it.
For now.
But his people are digging. If they dig deep enough, the cover will hold." "You said it yourself," Clara cut him off. "What did you need to talk about?" Reed turned to face her fully. "Agent Chun is pulling the plug. She says you've been in there a week with minimal intel. One shipment tip that we can't even act on without blowing your cover. She wants results or she wants you out." Clara's stomach dropped. "I need more time." "For what?" "To play nanny." Reed's voice was sharp. "You're there to take down a criminal organization, Clara. Not babysit his kid. That girl is innocent. That girl is leverage. Use her." "Use her how?" Clara's voice rose. "She's 7 years old. She has autism. She trusts me. You want me to exploit that? I want you to do your damn job." Reed stood, pacing. "Your sister is dead because of Romano's operation. You begged for this assignment. You said you wanted justice. Well, this is what justice looks like. It's not pretty, it's not fair, and sometimes innocent people are collateral damage." Clara felt sick. Sophia is not collateral damage. Then what is she? Your new best friend? Your pet project? Reed leaned close, his voice dropping. "Listen to yourself. You're defending him. You're protecting her. That's not our mission. The mission is to gather evidence. That takes time. Trust. The mission is to bring down Adrian Romano." Reed pulled out his own phone, showing her a photo. A young woman, blonde, barely 20. "This is Melissa Grant. 19 years old. Overdosed last week on fentanyl-laced heroin. Romano's product. While you're playing house, girls like this are dying." Clara looked away. "I know."
Do you?
"Because from where I'm standing, you're getting soft. You're starting to care about them." Reed's expression hardened. "That's how undercovers fail, Clara. They forget which side they're on." "I haven't forgotten." "Then prove it. Chun wants actionable intelligence in 48 hours, or she's extracting you. Find Romano's distribution network. Get into his computer. Do whatever you have to do. And if I can in 48 hours, then you failed. And we'll find another way in." Reed stood. "Don't come to this meeting spot again. Too risky. Use the emergency line only. And Clara..." He paused. "Remember why you're doing this. Remember Emma." He walked away, leaving Clara alone on the bench. She pulled out her real phone, the one Clara Matthews carried, and scrolled to a photo she kept hidden in a locked folder. Emma, laughing at some joke Clara had made, her whole face bright with life. Emma, who trusted the wrong dealer. Emma, who died alone in a bathroom. Emma, who deserved justice. But when Clara closed her eyes, she didn't see Emma. She saw Sophia's face, trusting and innocent. She saw Adrian watching his daughter sleep, whispering that she was all he had left. She was supposed to destroy them. She was supposed to gather evidence, build a case, and watch Adrian Romano go to prison for the rest of his life, while Sophia ended up in foster care or with distant relatives who didn't understand her needs. That was justice. So, why did it feel like revenge? Clara deleted Reed's number from her call history and headed back to the mansion. She had 48 hours to choose, her mission or her conscience. She just didn't know which choice she could live with. 24 hours left. Clara woke to that thought and fell asleep to it. 24 hours to find evidence Chun would accept. 24 hours to justify staying, to keep Sophia from losing another person she trusted. 24 hours to betray Adrian Romano. She tried that morning. While Sophia was at her weekly occupational therapy session and Adrian was in a meeting, Clara slipped into the library. The fake lipstick USB drive was in her pocket, ready. Adrian's laptop sat on the library desk, closed but not locked away. Clara's hand hovered over it. Just 30 seconds, Chen had said. Plug it in, let it clone, walk away. But the office door was open. Victor Castellano walked past every few minutes. Security cameras tracked the hallway. And somewhere in her chest, a voice whispered, "This is wrong." She'd pulled her hand back and left empty-handed. Now she was running out of time. That afternoon, Sophia wanted to bake cookies. "Can we? Please?" The little girl bounced on her toes. A rare display of excitement. "The recipe book has pictures. I can follow pictures." Mrs. Castellano looked horrified. "The kitchen is not a playground." "It's fine," Clara said. "We'll clean up after." They spent 2 hours measuring flour and sugar, Sophia insisting everything be precise. Not a grain over the line. When an egg cracked messily, Sophia froze, her breathing quickening. "It's okay," Clara said quickly. "We'll just scoop out the shells."
See?
Problem solved. Sophia's panic faded. They continued. The cookies were lopsided and slightly burned, but Sophia stared at them like they were treasures. "We made these," she whispered. "By ourselves. You did most of the work. Can we give one to Daddy?" Clara's throat tightened. Of course. They found Adrian in his office on the phone with someone, his voice clipped and professional. But when he saw Sophia holding a paper plate with a cookie, his expression softened completely. "Gentlemen, I'll call you back," he ended the call without waiting for a response. "What's this?" "We baked," Sophia announced. "Try it." Adrian took the cookie, examined it seriously, and took a bite. His eyebrows rose. "This is delicious." "Really?" Sophia's whole face lit up. "Really?" He pulled her into a hug. She tolerated it for 3 seconds before squirming away. "You're a master chef." Sophia giggled and ran off to give cookies to the security guards. Adrian looked at Clara, still holding the half-eaten cookie. "Thank you." "For what?" "For making her feel normal," his voice was quiet. Even if just for an afternoon, Clara should have left. Should have maintained professional distance. Instead, she sat in the chair across from him. "Can I ask you something?" Adrian nodded. "Why this life?" She gestured around them. "You clearly love her. You could have gone legitimate, raised her somewhere safe." Adrian was silent for a long moment. "This life chose me before I chose it. My father was in the organization. His father before him. By the time I was old enough to make my own choices, I was already in too deep." He set down the cookie. "And then Maria, my wife, she saw something in me worth saving. She made me promise that if we had children, I'd find a way out. But you didn't." "I tried. After Sophia was born, I started moving assets, making plans. Then Maria died, and he stopped, jaw tightening. The men who planted that bomb are still out there. If I go legitimate, I lose my protection. I lose the resources to keep Sophia safe. So I stay. A prisoner of your own empire." Something like that. He met her eyes. "Does that make you afraid? Knowing what I am?" Clara should have said yes. Should have reinforced the barrier between employer and employee. "No," she said instead. "It makes me sad." Something flickered in Adrian's expression. Surprise, maybe. Or recognition. "You're different than I expected," he said softly. "What did you expect?" Someone who'd run when things got hard. Someone who'd see Sophia as a job, not a person. He paused. Someone who wouldn't call me out on my choices. Is that what I did? Isn't it? They stared at each other. The moment stretched, charged with something Clara didn't want to name. Adrian's phone buzzed. The spell broke. "I should go," Clara said, standing quickly. Sophia's probably covered the guards in cookie crumbs. But as she reached the door, Adrian called out, "Clara?" She turned.
"Thank you," he said again.
"For everything." The sincerity in his voice nearly broke her. That night, Clara couldn't sleep. 18 hours left. She needed to make a decision. Call Reed, ask for an extraction, admit failure, or find the evidence, complete the mission, destroy the fragile world Sophia had started to build. At 2 a.m., she gave up on sleep and wandered downstairs for water. That's when she heard it, a soft voice from Sophia's room. The door was cracked open. Clara peered inside. Adrian sat in the chair beside Sophia's bed, watching his daughter sleep. He'd changed from his suit into a t-shirt and jeans, his hair mussed like he'd been running his hands through it. "I'm trying," he whispered to Sophia's sleeping form. "I know I'm not good at this. Not like your mother was. She always knew what to say, what to do. She made everything easier." Sophia shifted in her sleep, clutching her stuffed bear. Adrian's voice cracked. "You're all I have left, baby girl. The only good thing in my whole damn life. And I'm terrified every day that I'm going to fail you. That I'll mess you up worse than you already are. That I'll..." He stopped, pressing his palms to his eyes. Clara's chest ached. This wasn't the crime lord. This wasn't the dangerous man who threatened to disappear bodies. This was just a father, broken and struggling and alone. "She's all I have left," Adrian whispered. Clara should have left. Should have slipped away unseen. Instead, she knocked softly on the doorframe. Adrian's head snapped up, his expression transforming instantly to guarded alertness. But when he saw it was Clara, some of the tension eased. "Can't sleep either?" he asked quietly. Clara shook her head and stepped into the room. "I heard you talking. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to intrude." "It's all right," he looked back at Sophia. "I do this sometimes. Come in here, talk to her when she can't hear me. It's pathetic." "It's not pathetic. It's human." Adrian laughed softly, bitterly. "That's generous." Clara moved closer, standing beside his chair. "You're a good father, Mr. Romano."
Adrian.
"And no, I'm not. A good father wouldn't raise his daughter in a world like mine. A good father loves his daughter. Protects her. Tries to do better." Clara's voice was gentle. "That's you." Adrian looked up at her. In the dim light from Sophia's nightlight, his eyes were vulnerable in a way she'd never seen. "Why do you care?" he asked. "You barely know us." "Because I'm supposed to destroy you," Clara thought. "Because you're a criminal, and I'm a cop, and this is my job." "Because Sophia deserves someone who cares," she said instead. "And so do you." The words hung between them. Adrian stood slowly, and suddenly he was close. Too close. Clara could smell his cologne, see the flecks of gold in his gray eyes. "You're dangerous, Clara Matthews," he said softly. Her pulse raced. "Why?" "Because I'm starting to believe you actually mean that." They stood in the darkness, inches apart, the sleeping child between them a reminder of everything at stake. Clara knew she should step back, should remember who she was, what she was doing here. But all she felt was the devastating weight of guilt and attraction, and something that felt terrifyingly like real emotion. "I should go," she whispered. "Yeah," Adrian agreed. But neither of them moved. Finally, Clara forced herself to step back, to leave the room, to flee to her own quarters before she did something unforgivable. Behind her closed door, she pulled out the emergency phone with shaking hands. 15 hours left. She typed, "I need more time." Reed's response was immediate, no extensions. "Evidence by 9 a.m. or extraction. Those are your orders." Clara stared at the message until it blurred. Then she made her choice. She deleted the message, turned off the phone, and hid it in the back of her drawer. Tomorrow, she'd face the consequences. Tonight, she was just going to let herself feel. Even if it destroyed her. 9 a.m. came and went. Clara watched the clock in Sophia's playroom tick past the deadline, her stomach in knots. Her phone, the regular one, not the emergency burner, stayed silent. No call from Reed. No extraction team at the door. Just silence. Either they were giving her more time, or they'd already written her off as compromised. She didn't know which was worse. "Clara?" Sophia tugged her sleeve. "You're not listening." "Sorry, sweetheart." "What were you saying?" "Mr. Bear wants to know if you're sad." Clara looked at the stuffed bear Sophia held up, its button eyes somehow accusatory.
No, Clara, leave.
I'm just thinking. About what? About how I'm betraying your father. About how I'm betraying my badge. About how I don't know who I am anymore. About what to have for lunch, Clara said instead. Sophia seemed to accept this. She went back to arranging her toys in precise rows, humming tunelessly. Clara's phone buzzed. Finally. But it wasn't Reed. It was Adrian, my office. Now. Adrian stood at his window when she entered, his back to her. On his desk sat a manila folder, papers spilling out. Close the door, he said without turning. Clara obeyed, her heart hammering. Adrian finally faced her. His expression was unreadable. I need to ask you about Milwaukee, the city where Clara Matthews had supposedly worked. The carefully constructed backstory. What about it? Little Sprouts Daycare. You said you worked there for 2 years. That's right. Funny thing. Adrian moved to his desk, pulling out a paper. I called them. They confirmed you worked there. Said you were excellent with the children. Very reliable. Clara's shoulders relaxed slightly. The FBI had covered that base. But then I talked to a parent who used to bring her kid there. Adrian's eyes locked on hers. She remembered you. Said you were wonderful. Described you perfectly right down to the mole on your left wrist. Clara's blood went cold. She didn't have a mole on her left wrist. The real Clara Matthews did, Adrian continued. She died in a car accident 7 months ago. Single vehicle collision outside Milwaukee. Very tragic. The room spun. How had he? You've been using a dead woman's identity, Adrian said softly. Which means everything you've told me is a lie. Clara's training kicked in.
Deny. Deflect.
Create reasonable doubt. I don't know what you're. Don't, Adrian's voice cut like a blade. Don't insult my intelligence. I know what fake identities look like. I've created enough of them. Clara's mind raced. If he knew she was using a false identity, extraction protocols said to abort immediately. But if she ran now, she'd never get another chance at Romano. And Sophia would wake up to find another person had abandoned her. Who are you working for? Adrian asked. FBI? DEA? Chicago PD? Clara said nothing. Adrian laughed, a bitter, angry sound. And to think I was starting to trust you. Starting to believe that maybe, just maybe, someone actually gave a damn about my daughter for who she is, not what she could get from me. I do care about Sophia. Liar. Adrian slammed his hand on the desk. Everything about you is a lie. Your name. Your past. This whole caring persona. What's the play? Get close to me through my daughter? Make me trust you, so you can gather evidence. He was right. That was exactly the play. Clara met his eyes. Are you going to kill me? I should. Adrian's jaw clenched. My men certainly think so. Victor wants you disappeared tonight. Marco's already dug the hole. But my daughter loves you. The words came out anguished. In 2 weeks, you've become the most important person in her world besides me. She talks about you constantly. She sleeps better knowing you're in the house. This morning she asked if you could be her new mommy. Clara's chest constricted. Adrian. Don't say my name like that. Like you care. He moved closer, his presence overwhelming. Tell me the truth. At least give me that. Who sent you? Clara weighed her options. The truth would end everything. Her career, possibly her life. But maybe, just maybe, honesty would buy Sophia some protection. Chicago PD, she said quietly. Special Investigations Unit. My real name is Clara Reyes. Detective Clara Reyes. Adrian's expression didn't change. He'd already known. And Sophia? Was she ever more than an assignment to you? At first? No, Clara forced herself to be honest. I researched her needs because I needed to get close to you. The bubbles, the way I calmed her. I planned all of it. Of course you did. But somewhere along the way, Clara's voice cracked. She stopped being part of the mission. She became real. And I started to actually care. How convenient. It's the truth. I care about her, Adrian. I know you don't believe me, but you're right. I don't. Adrian pulled his phone from his pocket. One call, and you vanish. No one will ever find you. That's what happens to people who threaten my family. Clara didn't move. If this was how it ended, she wouldn't beg. Adrian's finger hovered over the screen. Then a small voice came from the doorway. Daddy? They both turned. Sophia stood there in her yellow dress, her stuffed bear clutched to her chest, her eyes wide and confused. Why are you yelling? She asked. Are you mad at Clara? Adrian's face transformed, all the anger melting into something softer. Sophia, sweetheart, go back to? No, Sophia's voice was firm in the way only a child's can be. She walked directly to Clara and wrapped her arms around Clara's legs. Don't be mean to Clara, Sophia. She's my friend. She's nice. She doesn't yell or grab or make my food touch. Sophia looked up at her father with tears in her eyes. Please don't make her go away. Everyone goes away. Adrian stared at his daughter, his phone still in his hand, his fingers still hovering. Clara felt Sophia trembling against her. She knelt down, eye level with the little girl. Hey, Clara said softly. It's okay. Your dad and I were just talking. He sounded angry. Sometimes grown-ups get frustrated. But we're okay now, right? Clara looked at Adrian, silently pleading. Adrian looked between his daughter and the woman holding her. The woman who'd lied about everything. The woman his daughter loved. Slowly, he lowered the phone. Right, he said hoarsely. We're okay. Sophia studied him suspiciously. Then, promise? I promise, baby girl. Pinky promise? Sophia held out her tiny finger. Adrian knelt and linked his pinky with hers. Pinky promise. Satisfied, Sophia released Clara and skipped back to the playroom, humming like nothing had happened. Adrian and Clara stayed kneeling on the floor, the weight of what just happened hanging between them. She saved your life, Adrian said quietly. You understand that? If she hadn't walked in. I know. This isn't over. I still don't trust you. I'm still watching. And if you do anything to hurt her, I will end you. He stood, towering over her. But as long as Sophia needs you, you stay. Clara stood on shaky legs. And when she doesn't need me anymore? Adrian's smile was cold. Then we'll see if you're as good at running as you are at lying. He walked to his desk, picked up a different folder, and handed it to her. Inside were documents, fake papers, a new identity. Clara Reynolds, Canadian citizen, former teacher. This is who you are now, Adrian said. Clara Matthews is dead again. This identity will hold up to anything short of Interpol. Use it. Why are you helping me? I'm not helping you. I'm protecting Sophia. Adrian's eyes were hard. She's happy. For the first time in years, she's actually happy. I won't take that away from her, even if it means keeping a cop in my house. What about your men? Victor and... They'll do what I tell them, but they'll also be watching you every second. One mistake, detective, and they won't wait for my permission. Clara nodded. The reprieve was temporary. Fragile, but it was something.
Thank you, she said.
Don't thank me.
Just your job.
Take care of my daughter. And stay out of my business. He sat at his desk, effectively dismissing her. We clear? Crystal. Clara turned to leave. Detective Reyes? She paused at the door. I meant what I said. I'm watching. And unlike you, I don't lie about who I am. His voice was ice. I'm a monster who loves his daughter. Remember that before you decide where your loyalties lie. Clara left the office, her whole body shaking. She'd survived. Barely. But now Adrian knew the truth, or part of it, and she was more trapped than ever. The worst part, she wasn't sure she wanted to escape anymore. 3 days after Adrian learned the truth, life continued in an uneasy truce. Clara took care of Sophia. Adrian watched Clara like a hawk. And somewhere in the background, Victor and Marco circled like sharks smelling blood. On Thursday afternoon, Sophia begged to go to the park. Please. She bounced on her toes. I want to feed the ducks. We have bread. Clara said we could. Adrian looked at Clara with those cold, suspicious eyes that had replaced the warmth from before. It's safe, Clara said. Lincoln Park is public, lots of witnesses. She needs fresh air. Fine, Adrian stood from his desk. I'll come with you. That wasn't normal. Adrian rarely joined their outings. You don't have to. I'm coming. His tone left no room for argument. 30 minutes later, they walked through Lincoln Park. Adrian, Clara, Sophia, and 2 security guards trailing 20 feet behind. Marco and another enforcer named Joey. Sophia ran ahead to the pond, bread clutched in her small hands. She laughed as ducks waddled toward her, quacking. Stay where I can see you, Adrian called. I will, Daddy. Clara stood beside Adrian in tense silence. Finally, she spoke. You really think I'd hurt her? I think you're a cop in deep cover who's already lied about everything else. So yeah, I don't know what you'd do. I'd die before I let anything happen to her. Adrian looked at her sharply. We'll see. That's when Clara noticed them. 2 men in windbreakers, hands in pockets, walking too purposefully. 3 more spreading out near the tree line. Not casual parkgoers. Hunters. Her training kicked in. Adrian. I see them. His voice was deadly calm. He pulled his phone, texted something rapid. To Marco. Get Sophia.
Now.
But it was too late. The first shot shattered the afternoon quiet. It missed Adrian by inches, slamming into the tree behind him. Bark exploded. Sophia. Adrian screamed. The little girl stood frozen by the pond, bread scattered at her feet, her hands over her ears as the sound overwhelmed her. Clara didn't think.
She ran.
More gunshots. People screaming. Marco and Joey returning fire. But Clara only saw Sophia, small and terrified and vulnerable. She reached the girl as another shot rang out. Clara grabbed Sophia, wrapped herself around the child's body, and dove behind a concrete bench. Bullets punched into the ground where they'd been standing a second before. I've got you, Clara breathed into Sophia's hair. I've got you, baby. Close your eyes. Sophia was screaming, her whole body shaking, but Clara kept her covered. She risked a glance around the bench. 5 attackers, all armed. Professional. This wasn't random, this was a hit. Marco went down with a bullet to the shoulder. Joey was pinned behind a tree. And Adrian. Adrian had his own gun out, firing with cold precision at the approaching men. But he was exposed, outnumbered. One of the attackers shouted, "The girl, get the girl, and we've got leverage." They were coming for Sophia. Clara made a split-second decision. She'd taken an oath as a cop. She'd been trained at Quantico. And right now, none of that mattered as much as the terrified child in her arms. Sophia, listen to me, Clara grabbed the girl's face. I need you to run to those trees. Don't stop. Don't look back. Run. I'm scared. I know, but you're brave. I've seen it. Now run. Clara pushed Sophia toward the tree line just as one of the attackers rounded the bench. He raised his gun at the fleeing child. Clara didn't hesitate. She launched herself at him, using techniques she'd learned in tactical training, grabbed his wrist, twisted, used his momentum against him. The gun discharged into the air as she swept his legs. He went down hard. Clara grabbed the fallen weapon and fired. The shot was perfect, center mass, exactly like she'd been trained. The attacker collapsed. Clara spun, finding the next threat. Another gunman had Sophia in his sights. Clara fired twice more. Both shots found their target. The man dropped. Time seemed to slow. Clara was dimly aware of sirens in the distance. Of Adrian staring at her with something between shock and recognition. Of Marco taking down another attacker. But mostly she was aware of Sophia, crouched behind a tree, alive and safe. Police, drop your weapons. Unmarked cars screeched into the park. Cops poured out, including one Clara recognized. Detective Sergeant Marcus Reed. Their eyes met across the chaos. His expression said everything. What the hell have you done? But Clara was already moving. She dropped the gun, raised her hands, and ran to Sophia. The little girl threw herself into Clara's arms, sobbing. You saved me, Sophia whispered. You saved me. Always, Clara breathed. I'll always save you. Adrian approached slowly, his own weapon holstered, his eyes locked on Clara. He'd seen everything. The way she moved, the precision of her shots, the tactical training that no waitress or daycare worker would ever have. He knew what she was. But he'd also seen her shield his daughter, seen her take down 2 armed men to protect Sophia, seen her choose his child over her cover. Detective Reed's voice cut through the moment. He stood 10 feet away, badge displayed. You need to come with us. Adrian's hand moved to his holster. Don't, Clara said quickly, still holding Sophia. Please, Adrian, don't. She's one of yours, Adrian said to Reed, his voice deadly quiet. This whole time, you had a cop in my house. Sir, I need you to step back. She was gathering evidence, building a case, using my daughter. I wasn't using her. Clara stood, putting herself between Adrian and Reed. I was protecting her. I am protecting her. By lying? By betraying us. By keeping her alive. Clara's voice broke. Those men came for her, Adrian. They were going to take her or kill her.
And I stopped them.
Not because of my job. Not because of my badge. Because I love her. The words hung in the air. Sophia's small voice cut through the tension. You love me? Clara looked down at the tear-stained face. Yes, sweetheart. I love you. Then don't go, Sophia grabbed Clara's hand. Please don't go like Mommy did. Reed stepped forward. Detective Reyes, you're compromised. We need to extract you now. No, Clara said. That's not a request. I said no, Clara looked at Reed.
I'm staying.
You're ending your career. Then I'm ending it, Clara's voice was firm. These people need protection. Sophia needs protection. And I'm not leaving. Reed's expression hardened. Then you're on your own. The department won't back you. You'll have no support, no extraction, no immunity. I understand. Reed looked at Adrian.
She's all yours.
But know this, we're still watching. Still building our case. This changes nothing. He walked away, leaving Clara standing in the wreckage of her career. Adrian stared at her for a long moment. Then he spoke, his voice raw. You chose her. Yes. Over your badge. Your duty. Everything you believed in. Clara looked at Sophia, still clinging to her. Not everything. The most important thing I believe in is protecting innocent people. And she's the most innocent person I know. Adrian's expression was unreadable. Then he held out his hand.
Come on.
We need to get Sophia home before the shock sets in. Clara took his hand. As they walked to his car, surrounded by security and police tape and the aftermath of violence, Clara realized what she'd done. She'd betrayed her department, chosen a crime lord's family over justice, burned every bridge she had. And she'd do it again in a heartbeat. Because sometimes the right choice wasn't the legal one. Sometimes it was just human. The aftermath of the park attack consumed the next 48 hours. Sophia barely slept, waking every few hours screaming. Clara stayed with her through every nightmare, holding her when she'd allow it, sitting nearby when she needed space. Adrian coordinated with his people, hunting whoever had ordered the hit. The attackers who'd survived were being questioned, somewhere Clara didn't want to know about. And Victor Castellano watched Clara like she was a bomb waiting to detonate. On the third night, Clara finally got Sophia to sleep. She was heading to her own room when she heard raised voices from Adrian's office. Can't seriously be considering this. Victor's voice carried through the door. She's a cop, Adrian. A goddamn detective sent to destroy us. She also saved my daughter's life. Adrian's response was measured but firm. By doing her job, police are trained to neutralize threats. She saw armed men, she reacted. That doesn't make her loyal. Clara pressed against the wall, listening. What would you have me do, Victor? Throw out the only person Sophia trusts. Yes, Victor exploded. Before it's too late. Before she gathers enough evidence to bring down this entire family. Do you think the cops just gave up? They're watching, waiting. And she's still their asset whether she admits it or not. She refused extraction. So she says, for all we know, that was theater. A way to gain your trust completely. Victor's voice dropped. Adrian, I've stood by you for 30 years. Through wars, through losses, through everything. Trust me now. This woman is a threat. Silence. Then Adrian. She's staying until Sophia doesn't need her anymore. That could be months. Years. How long are you willing to risk everything for? A phone rang, interrupting. Clara heard Adrian answer. What? A pause. You're certain?
When?
Another pause, longer this time. I understand. Increased security. No one in or out without my approval. What is it? Victor asked. That was our contact in the Salvatore family. Adrian's voice was ice. They know about Clara. Everything. That she's a cop, that she was sent to infiltrate us. Even details about her assignment. Clara's blood went cold.
How?
Victor demanded. Someone leaked her personnel file. The Salvatores are planning to expose her at Friday's council meeting, when all the families gather. They want to embarrass me publicly, prove I'm weak, vulnerable. That I let a cop into my inner circle. Friday? That's 2 days from now. They're forcing my hand. Either I handle her before the meeting, or they'll do it for me. Make it clear I've lost control. Clara's phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out, the emergency burner she'd been ignoring. Reed's message. They know everything. Extract now. This is your last chance. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. One word, and a team would come for her. She'd be safe, protected, away from the danger closing in. She looked toward Sophia's room, where the little girl finally slept peacefully. Clara deleted the message and turned off the phone. In the office, Victor spoke. So what do we do? I don't know yet. Adrian, you need to decide. Your feelings for this woman. I don't have feelings for her. Don't you?
Victor's voice was softer now.
I see how you look at her. How Sophia's not the only one who's changed since she arrived. You're risking everything. Your position, your safety, this family's entire operation, because you can't separate the woman who helps your daughter from the cop who's trying to destroy you. That's not. It is. And the Salvatores know it. They're going to use it against you. Against all of us. A pause. You want my advice? Send her away tonight. Tell her to disappear and never come back. We'll explain to Sophia, help her adjust. But get her out before Friday. Clara held her breath, waiting for Adrian's response. No. Adrian. I said no. We're not sending her away. Adrian's voice was firm. The Salvatores want to embarrass me?
Fine.
Let them try. But I'm not making decisions based on fear of what they might do. Then, what's your play? I'm going to that meeting. And I'm bringing Clara with me. Clara's eyes widened. You can't be serious, Victor said. You'd parade her in front of every family boss in Chicago? Admit you knowingly kept a cop in your house. I'm going to show them exactly what happened. That yes, she was sent to infiltrate us. Yes, she's a cop. But she also chose my daughter over her badge. She killed to protect Sophia. She burned her entire career to keep her safe. Adrian paused. That's not weakness, Victor. That's leverage. Any boss in that room would kill to have someone that loyal. They'll never believe it. They'll think she's playing you. Then I'll prove otherwise. I'll put her in that room, with all our enemies, and dare them to touch her. If she's really still working with the cops, she'd never agree to it. It would compromise every investigation. Clara's mind raced. He was right. Going to a meeting with every crime family in Chicago would end any remaining credibility she had with law enforcement. It would be a public declaration of which side she'd chosen. It would make her a criminal. This is insane, Victor muttered. Maybe. But it's also the only move that keeps everyone safe. Sophia, Clara, and this family's reputation. Adrian's voice hardened. We're not running. We're not hiding. We're facing this head-on. Footsteps approached the door. Clara quickly moved away, slipping into a shadowed alcove. Victor emerged first, his face tight with frustration. Then Adrian. He stopped directly in front of Clara's hiding spot. You can come out now, detective, he said without looking at her. I know you're there. Clara stepped into the light. Adrian turned to face her. You heard? Yes. And? Are you going to run? Call your handler? Beg for extraction? Clara met his eyes. I already turned off my phone. Something flickered in Adrian's expression. The meeting's Friday at 8 p.m. You'll come with me. You'll stand in front of every crime boss in the city while the Salvatores reveal who you really are. And when they're done, you'll tell them exactly what you told me in the park. That I chose Sophia. That you chose us. Adrian moved closer. This is your last chance, Clara. After Friday, there's no going back. You won't just be a cop who went rogue. You'll be a criminal in the eyes of the law. Everything you were, everything you believed in, gone. Clara thought about Emma, about the oath she'd taken, about the badge locked in her apartment safe. Then she thought about Sophia's nightmares, about the trust in her eyes, about a little girl who'd lost so much already. I understand, Clara said. I'll be there. Adrian studied her for a long moment. I hope you know what you're doing. So, do I. He walked away, leaving Clara alone in the hallway. She pulled out her regular phone and sent one final text to read. I'm out. Don't look for me. His response came immediately. You're making a mistake. Maybe she was. But it was her mistake to make. Clara went to her room, pulled out the lockbox where she kept her real badge, and stared at it for the last time. Detective Clara Reyes had died the moment she chose a mobster's daughter over justice. Now there was only Clara, no last name, no badge, no past. Just a woman who'd chosen love over law. And Friday night, she'd face the consequences. The Venetian room was exactly what Clara expected: dark wood paneling, cigar smoke, and enough firepower to start a war. 20 men sat around the massive table. Family bosses, consiglieras, enforcers. The most dangerous people in Chicago gathered for their monthly council. And Clara walked in holding Adrian Romano's hand. The room went silent. Gentlemen, Adrian said calmly, pulling out a chair for Clara. I believe you all know my daughter's caretaker. Salvatore, a fat man with dead eyes, smiled like a shark. Oh, we know her. Question is, do you? I know exactly who she is. Adrian sat beside Clara, his posture relaxed. But she felt the tension coiled in him like a spring. Detective Clara Reyes, Chicago PD, sent undercover 3 months ago to gather evidence on my organization. Gasps around the table. Victor closed his eyes like he'd seen this coming. Marco's hand moved toward his holster. You admit it? Konstantin, the Russian boss, leaned forward. You knowingly harbor police in your home? I admit she was a cop when she arrived. Past tense. Adrian's voice was steel. She's not anymore. Once a cop, always a cop, Salvatore sneered. She's playing you, Romano. Making you weak. That's why we're calling for a vote tonight. Either you remove this liability or we remove you both. Clara's heart hammered. A vote. They were going to force Adrian to choose between her and his position. There won't be a vote, Adrian said quietly. You don't get to decide that. The door burst open. Everyone's hand went to their weapons. But it wasn't an attack. It was Sophia. The little girl stood in the doorway in her pajamas, her stuffed bear clutched to her chest, tears streaming down her face. Behind her, Mrs. Castellano looked horrified. I'm sorry, sir. She ran past me. Sophia, sweetheart. Adrian started to stand. No. Sophia's screams silenced the room. You took Clara away. You promised you wouldn't make her leave. She ran to Clara, throwing herself into her arms. Clara caught her automatically, her throat tight. Sophia, what are you doing here? Mrs. Castellano said you went to a dangerous place. That you might not come back. Sophia's voice broke. Like Mommy. She said she was coming back too, but she didn't. The room full of hardened criminals watched a 7-year-old girl cling to a woman who'd lied to them all. Salvatore recovered first. Well, isn't this touching? The cop has the kid brainwashed. Shut up. Adrian's voice cracked like a whip. He knelt beside Sophia, his hand gentle on her back. Baby girl, Clara's fine. She's right here. But they want to take her away. I heard Mrs. Castellano talking. She said the bad men would make Clara disappear. Sophia looked at the room full of crime bosses with pure, innocent defiance. You can't have her. She's mine. Constantine laughed. A genuine sound. The child has more spine than half this room. Salvatore wasn't amused. This is exactly the problem, Romano. You've let sentiment compromise your judgment. The girl's attached to a cop. That's unacceptable. You're right, Adrian said quietly. Clara's breath caught.
No.
He couldn't. It is unacceptable, Adrian continued, standing. It's unacceptable that my daughter has had to lose everyone she's ever loved. It's unacceptable that she's spent 4 years terrified of the world. And it's unacceptable that any of you think I'll sacrifice the one person who's given her hope. He pulled out his gun. The room erupted, chairs scraping, weapons drawing. Victor shouted something. Marco moved to Adrian's side. But Adrian didn't point the gun at Clara. He pointed it at Salvatore. This is how this ends, Adrian said, his voice deadly calm. Clara Reyes stays. She's under my protection, under this family's protection. Anyone who touches her, threatens her, or even looks at her wrong answers to me personally. You'd start a war over a cop? Salvatore's face was purple. She's no cop to me. Adrian's eyes never left Salvatore's. She's the woman who saved my child.
Twice.
She gave up everything, her career, her badge, her future, to protect an innocent little girl. That's more loyalty than I've seen from half this council. The Salvatores won't stand for this. Then the Salvatores can try me. Adrian cocked the gun. Right here, right now. Because I'm done negotiating my daughter's happiness. The silence stretched. 20 seconds. 30. Finally, Constantine spoke. I vote we accept Romano's decision. Heads turned. The Russian shrugged. What? Man protects his family. That's honorable. Besides, anyone who can turn a cop, make her burn her whole career? That's the kind of loyalty money can't buy. One by one, the other bosses nodded. Even Victor, though he looked pained. Salvatore was the last. This isn't over, Romano. Yes, Adrian said softly. It is. Salvatore stood and walked out. 2 of his men followed. Adrian lowered his gun. Council adjourned. The room cleared quickly. Soon it was just Adrian, Clara, Sophia, Victor, and Marco. Victor approached Clara. You understand what just happened? He risked everything for you. Started a potential war with the Salvatores. Put a target on his back. I know, Clara whispered. You better be worth it, but there was something almost like respect in his eyes. After Victor and Marco left, Adrian knelt in front of Sophia. You're supposed to be asleep, troublemaker. Are you mad? No, baby. I could never be mad at you, he kissed her forehead. But you need to go back to bed now. Clara will tuck you in. Promise she'll come? I promise. Sophia finally released Clara and took Mrs. Castellano's hand. As they left, she looked back. I love you, Clara. I love you too, sweetheart.
The door closed.
Adrian and Clara stood alone in the smoke-filled room. You didn't have to do that, Clara said. Risk everything for her. Yes, I did. Adrian moved closer. You made a choice in that park. You chose her over everything you believed in. Tonight was my turn. Adrian. I'm not a good man, Clara. I've done terrible things. Hurt people. Broken laws. But Sophia? His voice cracked. She's the only pure thing in my life. And you gave her back her smile. How could I not protect that? Clara felt tears sliding down her face. I was supposed to destroy you. I know. I was supposed to bring down your whole organization. I know that too. Adrian reached out, wiping her tears with his thumb. But somewhere along the way, you became part of us. Part of this broken, messed up family. And I don't care what you were. I only care what you are now. What am I now? Sophia's protector. He paused, searching for words. My chance at something real. Clara laughed through her tears. A crime lord and a disgraced cop. That's not exactly a fairy tale.
No.
But it's ours. He kissed her then, soft and careful, like she might disappear. When they broke apart, Clara whispered, I can't go back. You know that, right? I burned every bridge. I'm a criminal now in the eyes of the law. Then I guess you'll fit right in. Adrian smiled, a real smile, the first she'd seen. Welcome to the family, Clara. Whatever your last name is these days. How about Romano? The words slipped out before she could stop them. Adrian's breath caught. You mean that? Ask me again in a year. When you're sure I'm not still secretly gathering evidence. I'm sure now.
How?
Because you're still here. Because you chose her. Because he pulled her close. Because I see the truth when I look at you. And the truth is you love us. Despite everything we are. Clara rested her head against his chest, hearing his heartbeat.
Yeah.
I do. Upstairs, Sophia was probably already asleep, dreaming of bubbles and tea parties and a world where people didn't leave. And for the first time in months, Clara wasn't Detective Reyes or Clara Matthews. She was just Clara. A woman who'd traded justice for love. And somehow, impossibly, found both.